the internet can be a really, really dark place. And I think, you know, you found that out personally from this experiment. How did that take a toll on you in the beginning? Do you remember when it first started? Like, oh shit, people like are really mean to me on social media.
Being that I was bullied really, really bad in high school, I remember thinking to myself as I aged, like, I will never, ever let that happen to me again. And then it did. It all happened again. You know, like I made choices, of course, but, you know, I did it in the pursuit of love on a show that was specifically designed for that. And so I felt like it was the right thing to do for myself at the time. And how did I cope? I didn't. If you want me to be completely transparent, I didn't. I shut down. Being someone that I haven't always had the tools and haven't always had, you know, someone in my life to say, hey, like, this is someone I see. Maybe you should see this person and talk to them and see if they can give you some instruction on the best way to handle and cope with things like this. Like, I shut down a little bit. You know, I stopped being my most vivacious self. I stopped working out. I wasn't taking care of myself. Like, I mean, it's something as simple as, you know, cleaning a dish in your sink that you would normally like not let sit for 2 days, but then it just does. And you're like, what's happening to me? You know, it makes me emotional because I remember like I had such conviction. Like, I was just like, I know who I am. I know that my intentions were good. And I still to this day know that. I know that I never wanted to hurt anybody. And then I had people telling me that they wanted me to fucking die. Like literally those words, you know, not my words, people on the internet. And it was just over and over and over and over again telling me that, you know, I'm ugly and that I'm, you know, just all kinds of stuff. It got to the point to where I just started to believe it. Like, I just started to believe some of that. Like, maybe my internal voice and who I've worked so hard to become isn't who I really am, you know? And then all that imposter syndrome came back, and I just, you know, I was just in this freaking mode of like, I'm just gonna put it all behind me. I'm just gonna move on and deflect and whatever. And so, as you know, if you do that, it just gets worse.
Yep.
It just gets worse, and it gets darker and darker, and you get to the point where you shut everyone out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all you want to do is talk to somebody and like make them understand.
Yeah.
But I felt like no matter what I would say, nobody would ever understand. And so I just shut down.
Did you have suicidal thoughts, fall into depression, deal with the anxiety of these comments on Instagram all day long when the show's airing and afterwards? Like, what was, I hate asking this, but I've experienced it myself, but what was a rock bottom for you?
Yeah. So, you know, I had this like flicker of hope, you know, I like this glimmer of hope. I was like, it's going to turn around. It's going to be okay. I'm deflecting. It's going to go away. Everybody's going to forget about it. It's not that serious. It's not that deep. But it didn't end when I thought it would. I still have it happening to me occasionally. I hate that that's something that I notice more so than the people that are like, hey, we love you. But it just happens to be like,
yeah,
you know, the first thing that your brain goes to. I remember rock bottom for me was the day of the reunion. I was, you know, really excited a year later to go and speak my truth and, you know, say, hey guys, like, this is what really happened. And, you know, and I think it was like the little girl in me of being like, I promise it's not what you think. Let me explain this, you know? And like, I really thought it would go that way, and it just didn't. It didn't. It was just a big mess. And Jeremy was there with me, and we decided to stay in LA for a few extra days, and that was one of the darkest moments of my life. I remember leaving the morning of the reunion, and in the car, I was in an Uber ride, and Jeremy was next to me. I like looked at him and I was like, what just happened? Like, I remember thinking, like, my life's over. Like, everything, it's over. You know, because I came here for a reason. I came here to prove to you guys, to prove to the world that I am not this person. And it didn't work. And you see me reacting and you see me wanting to say so much more. And then I just stopped because I knew, like, it was just over at that point. We had a miserable time in LA. We were arguing, you know, and I have to applaud Jeremy. He was very much trying to be there for me, but I could not bring myself to do anything but just sulk, you know. I was like, I don't want to go back home. I don't want to go home. I want to sit in this apartment that we're in, this Airbnb, and never leave. That was a really, really rough time. We were getting spotted while we were there, and, you know, like, all I could think of was about that day. My mom called me. I didn't even answer the phone. I mean, that was a low for me. As far as suicidal thoughts, that didn't happen until after I got back to Charlotte. It's really hard to talk about because, like, there was only one other time in my life where I felt so low. My mom had breast cancer, and I just remember thinking, like, that's my best friend, you know, and that was one of the moments that I just, if she's not here, I'm not here, you know.
Right.
It's been a long time since I had gotten to that point of, you know, feeling so alone. Even being in a home with someone who had gone through the same thing, but I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. I know that sounds really kind of crazy, but I don't know. Sometimes when someone's going through the same thing and they're experiencing different emotions and, you know, it's actually a lot harder to cope, I think, in that situation. You know, we could relate about certain things, but not other things, you know?
Right.
I was laying in my bed one night and I just remember being like, this is what I had mentioned. Like, I was reading that book, like, is this a lesson God's been trying to teach me my whole life that I'm never going to get? I'm never going to understand it. I'm never, ever going to get it. So it was like, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't fucking sleep. I just remember being like, just go to bed. It's going to be fine. You know? And then, like, I would get up and I would pace around, and then I started having panic attacks, and it was such a miserable physical experience for me that I was just like, I can't do this anymore. That's hard to admit. Because I pride myself on being someone who is a light in such a dark world, and I try to be uplifting to people, and as some people have called it, resilient, which I appreciate that, but I'm still human.
Yeah, I mean, you're human. You see what people comment, what people say. Like, you turn comments off on Instagram, which, like, I'm not saying that as like a dig, but like, that had to feel liberating to know that, like, all right, well, at least people can't talk shit now.
People hound me about that. Like, what do you mean? And, you know, it's really sad for people that are supportive. You know, I did a Q&A, and, you know, I had people saying, like, stop punishing the people that love you. And I'm like, is that what I'm doing? Because, like, that's exactly what I'm not trying to do, you know? Like, I don't want a platform that makes people feel like I'm not highlighting all the good in the world. And I apologize if that's what I've been doing, but it's just that I have, over the past couple months, been, you know, on a mental health journey for myself to try to be better, and to really just heal.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Have you started therapy? What are coping mechanisms that have helped you along that journey? Because to do it in any form is tough when you're getting bullied or attacked, but like to be on one of Netflix's biggest shows and then have people call you a villain and say all this stuff to you literally directly to your face or on Instagram, online, like it's a lot to deal with. How did you turn that corner from that rock bottom of having a suicidal thought and being alone or feeling alone? How did you turn that corner and start addressing it and helping yourself?
It was hard. I had to take a step back from everything. You know, there was a good little chunk of time where you would kind of see like a quote or something from me, but I kind of went ghost for a little while. Honestly, like I had to just stop engaging in all ways, not just the negativity and, you know, trying to defend myself, but just in general. Like I had to just take a step back and focus on what people in my life that were supportive of me were saying to me, you know. That's a really, really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately what ended up being, you know, I guess the turning of the corner would be, I remember one day I walked outside and there was a little girl on a bike. She's probably like 12 years old, my neighbor. And she was like, "Hey, are you Sarah Ann?" And I was like really taken back because I'm thinking like, this 12-year-old's definitely not watching Love is
You
Blind.
should not watch Love is Blind.
What's happening? You're watching me? And her mom was like unpacking groceries and she was like, "Hey," she was like, "she's so excited to meet you. She's such a fan." And I walked up to her and I chatted with her and she was just the sweetest little thing. And it happened every day that I was outside. Like every day that I was outside getting something from my car or pulling in from work or whatever, she'd be like, "Hi, Sarah Ann," every time. And that little voice just gave me this like it gave a new meaning to life, that like she's so innocent and sweet and like, you know, has no idea about all of this madness that's going on in the dark parts of the world. And like I just wanted to protect that so badly. And like, you know, like she's just my neighbor. Like what am I gonna do?
Sense of hope.
It gave me a sense of hope that there are still phenomenal, amazing people in the world that do want to see people succeed, that do want people to do good, that do give grace, and know that people fall sometimes. People make mistakes, but just because they do something in their life that maybe you wouldn't agree with, or maybe you wouldn't have taken that path, doesn't mean that you shun them and kick them out of the village as if they're not a human being anymore. I mean, that's wild. So yeah, I'll never forget that. Brown hair, blue eyes, rides her bike all around, and like it's just like I think about that often. I'm like, she made me feel like somebody. That little girl was the little girl in me going like, someone help, like what do I do? I don't know what to do. Where do I turn? And like that little voice just was like, "Hey, like I see you just for you." Like, you know what I mean? Just for like you as a person. You like, you're just on TV and I just like you. Or maybe she likes the color of my hair or something. Cause like we surely know that she's not looking at it going like, "Oh, this girl's a homewrecker." You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like, I knew that her innocence was she liked me just because she liked me. It was just such a joyful feeling. And I thought, I gotta change this. I gotta do something. I'm still in the process of building myself back up. I still am skipping the gym sometimes, which is not like me. I'm still not doing great at my meal prepping, which isn't like me. You know, I'm still having to rebuild my life right now, and rebuild my mental health, really, to get back to what feels comfortable to me. But I'm also becoming better at letting myself sit and do nothing in silence and in peace, and like I said, looking at myself in the mirror. And I don't know if we're allowed to talk about like actual, but there's a website called Talkspace. Which is like virtual, you know, therapy.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I started. I actually would love to maybe start doing like a hybrid situation to where I can like jump on like a virtual meeting with someone when I need them. But I also think that like in person is such a really good energy and you can really get something from that. So yeah. So, I mean, right now it's going well. It's hard. I don't like opening up wounds that you feel like have closed, but really just need to be reopened and fixed.